Alrighty, looks like we're live. Okay, so I thought I'd just pop on to do a quick live stream, see if anybody wants to come hang out, ask some questions. So yeah, not really anybody here yet. Hey, there's Aaron. Hey, Aaron. Yeah, I'm in an apartment in Cape Town, so most of my videos were filmed at my parents' house. I've been staying there. It's like an hour or two away in a small town, but there's an apartment that I sometimes come stay at when it's open. Really enjoy it because Cape Town is beautiful. So yeah, I'm here for probably the next week or two, but I bounce around because it's like an hour or so away from where my parents stay. So yeah, it's a really nice place. Yeah. Oh, it looks like we've got some people here. Awesome. Yeah, if anybody has any questions pertaining to anything, meditation, awakening, chronic illness, symptoms, you can just pop it in the chat. If you want me to talk about anything specifically, we can do that. If you want to do guided meditation, we can do that. So if there's no questions, in the meantime, I'm just going to sit in silence and meditate, really. Yeah, if you want to say anything, you're welcome to. And I just kind of, if there's nothing really happening, then I just invite you to, if you feel inclined to just take this opportunity to kind of just sit in stillness a bit as well. It's kind of really what I awesome, Aaron. Enjoy the painting. But yeah, even if someone's watching the replay, you can just use this opportunity to kind of stop and just feel what's this moment like, just as it is, without bringing anything into it. We can really just, at any time, we can just start again. This was something that helped me a lot when I was struggling with my recovery journey and all of that. Lots of ups and downs, and just remembering that each moment is actually brand new. And I'm kind of always carrying the past into the moment, but it's kind of, it's not necessary. So, you know, it's tough when we're living a busy life, or we've got a lot going on. You can just feel like things are building up from moment to moment. But that's the beauty of taking some time to sit and meditate, or sit and be with what's here, is there's really no agenda. And all the time we're doing everything with an agenda of how things are supposed to be, what we're meant to be doing, trying to make things a certain way. Whereas when we just stop all of that and realize that whatever's happened throughout the day is not here happening right now, and we can really explore what's here right now. All of that is just thoughts. And really the toughest parts of my whole journey was when I was lost in the past and the future, in thoughts, really, because nothing actually played out how my mind said it was going to play out. So the worst periods for me was when I was going through a really tough patch, and I was referring so much to how long this had been going on for, and projecting onto the future that I was never going to recover, and this was going to be my life forever, kind of, you know, that level of hopelessness. And it's not how it played out. I had no idea what was waiting around for me the next day, the next week, the next month. So I just wanted to share that. It kind of popped into my mind earlier, and I thought about making a video, and I might, but I just thought I'd come do a live stream and see if anybody has anything they want to share. But it's really, it doesn't matter what the thoughts are saying about past or future. If you're able to truly come, and this is why I recommend meditation and exploring the awakening path if it feels relevant to somebody, if it kind of resonates with them. Because in the direct experience of each moment, none of that suffering is there. It's all in thoughts about past and future. So it's the same kind of thing I recommend for working with symptoms. Can we feel directly into the raw experience of the symptom, the sensation itself? Because all of the labels about what the symptom means about what normally happens after the symptom appears, trying to figure out what caused the symptom, the thoughts saying how uncomfortable the symptom is, how scary the symptom is, how debilitating it is. None of that is actually in the pure direct experience. So if we can really just start to, the key is really seeing thoughts as what they are, and that's a really important insight, because until we kind of get that, we're identified as the thoughts, and then it's such a roller coaster, because whatever thought comes feels like what we are in that moment. A thought saying, this is so horrible, I'm going to die, I'm never going to recover. Once you can see that that's just a thought, it really loses its sting. And you can kind of just see it's like the mind's reaction to what's happening. And I'd say that's a really key part of this journey, is once we can see that, the symptoms can come, and then we can notice the mind's reaction to the symptoms. And if we can just feel, and we can see that we're not those thoughts, right? Those thoughts just come, they come and go. The thought saying, this is so horrible, this is never going to end. It goes, right? And those sensations change as well. It doesn't last forever. But it feels like it does in that moment if we're identified with that thought. So it's that's why I talk about awakening, and because awakening is really about a shift in identity from thought, a place where we identify as thoughts, to seeing thoughts as thoughts, and seeing the mind as the mind. And then there's space to do the work that can really help. It's kind of how it played out for me. Awakening is a very, people use the term differently. So and we can have pictures of, or ideas of what it means. But I guess what I'm just talking about is and I kind of speak from the way Angelo talks about it, from his channel and his book. It's really just a shift in identity, and we don't even need to use that word, but kind of what I was just referring to earlier is that shift out of thoughts is so helpful, because it's so difficult when we identify as thoughts, I guess, just to wrap things up. And that's what's really causing us to suffer, right, is believing that the thoughts are true. Even a thought saying this symptom is never going to go away, that's just a thought, right? It's not true. It's just not true. I remember during my worst times when I was having a really bad crash, and it was just so debilitating. There were all these crazy thoughts would come and say, I'm never going to recover, and that's, if I think back to why this journey was so tough, it was in those moments that it was tough, but that was all just in thoughts, right? The future that I was imagining at those periods was complete bullshit. Like a year later, I was doing things I had no idea I would be doing. The more we can just come into seeing a thought as a thought and feeling into what's actually here, which is kind of what I try to point to in most of my videos, is in different ways of talking about it, but really just feeling what's here, and yeah. So So we'll leave it there for now. See, we've got a question. Hi, Mercy. Most of my symptoms are in my head for me. Yeah, it's, I know a lot of people struggle with those kind of symptoms. I did myself as well. And to be honest, my symptoms were the worst when I was up in my head. What I mean by that is a huge part of the recovery journey was learning to come out of my head and into the direct experience of my body. Really being able to feel just what the body's feeling without jumping back into my head and analyzing what was there. So yeah, so specifically for things like brain fog and just those really, I'm sure everybody understands the brain fog and the mental fatigue and the cognitive symptoms like that. What really helped me a lot was things that would kind of really get me into the body. So I think I've mentioned it in one of my videos, one of my early videos. I actually did this thing called lymphatic drainage massage, which surprisingly was incredibly effective. It was like moving, like stroking parts of the head and the face and the neck. There's really good YouTube videos. If you just Google lymphatic drainage massage, it can really help to shift all of that, because it's kind of like energy in the head. But that's not how I would have spoken about it at the time. It was like brain fog and all of that. I really recommend something like that, like normal massage, lymphatic drainage massage, or yoga nidras. But yeah, specifically those lymphatic drainage massages works really well, because what would happen is I would be forced into the really uncomfortable sensations that I didn't even know were there. And it would have a profound effect. It was really, it's just for anybody watching this that struggles with brain fog, it really helped so much with the brain fog that I would feel such clarity afterwards. It was incredible. It was like if I could talk about it now, I would say it can be like a really short-term effective treatment, like in the moment. But I remember for me, I would do it and it was so effective, but I would often not want to do it even when I was feeling brain fog, because I knew I had to go into the sensation, like it would be uncomfortable. But afterwards it would feel amazing. So yeah, check that out on YouTube, anybody, just Google lymphatic drainage massage. And I know there's people that offer it as well. Yeah, that really helped me with the cognitive symptoms. Mia, hi Mia. Would you please talk about how to be with the loneliness of dealing with ME/CFS or in life generally? That's a great question, because I think it's a really tough part of the journey, but a really important part of the journey. So yeah, I'll definitely talk about that. That was a big part of it for me. What really changed, if I think about it, in my first year or so, I really struggled because my life got smaller and smaller, and I went from being in a relationship and seeing people and that to kind of, just living alone at home. And then at times I feel extremely lonely, and there was such a fear of the loneliness. I always felt like I needed to do something to make it go away. That, like, oh no, I'm feeling loneliness, this is bad, I need to do something about this. Or it was scary, I suppose. And what I eventually realized is it really all had to do with my beliefs about my identity and what a person's life should look like. And it was so scary that I wasn't living a life that everybody else was living. And that's why I stopped using social media. Quite early on, I always knew that it wasn't helping me. And and then if I did ever go on, that would really trigger the loneliness, because I would have these beliefs like, oh my gosh, look at all these lives these people are leading. Like, that's what I should be doing, but I can't. So that's one aspect of it. And really what changed for me was realizing that, like, as I talk about a lot, it was like not fighting what's here, right? So realizing that it's okay to feel loneliness. And as with all of the emotional stuff, I really recommend really allowing yourself to feel whatever scary, negative emotion is here, whatever one's afraid to feel. Really allow yourself just to feel that. Like, okay, wow, I feel kind of lonely. And, how does that make you feel? Maybe scared or sad. And to just let yourself feel that, like, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with feeling lonely. It's really, it was for me the fear of feeling lonely and the oh no, what do I do? I shouldn't be feeling this emotion. That was what was the problem. Actually, feeling loneliness wasn't the problem. So yeah, I invite anyone, if they feel that, to kind of allow the emotion to express itself, to just kind of let it come up. And along with that, you can really self-soothe. You can kind of imagine that you're talking to the emotion itself, that you're kind of self-parenting in a way or whatever. That was a massive change in this journey that got me on the recovery path. Like something that changed, that allowed me to start recovering, was realizing that I could be there for myself. That all the time there was stories in my mind of, if only I had, because I had been in a long-term relationship that ended before this, if only I had somebody that was there for me that could, soothe me or help me through this. And, always, if only somebody else could do this or somebody else could do that. Realizing that I can feel what I'm feeling and I can be there for myself, it was a game changer. And it's like these self-compassion practices, this self-parenting, like whatever comes up, you can kind of talk to that emotion itself and say, it's okay, you can feel that. I'm here for you. I did a lot of that. I actually want to make a video talking more directly about the compassion practices, because that was really when I started to recover, when no matter what scary stuff came up, or whether it was symptoms or emotions or thoughts or whatever, it kind of became my automatic response because I practiced it so much. It's okay. I love you. I accept you. You can be here. I make space for whatever needs to be felt. Like really actually actively working with what's here is incredibly helpful. Instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to feel what's here, to really like self-soothe it was a game changer for me. So you're feeling loneliness, it's fine. Let that loneliness be there. And to go back to what I was saying earlier, was also the beliefs that when those beliefs kind of fall away, that I'm not living the life that I thought I should be living. I'm living the life that life is giving me. And if I fight that, that's when I suffer. If I embrace it, that this is where life is taking me, it eventually became the most incredible journey. Difficult a lot of the time, but realizing that, I don't have to be socializing and living the same life as everybody else. And sure, once I've recovered, I can do those kind of things, but it's kind of more just spontaneous now. If it happens, it happens. It's really got to do with identity and stuff as well, of, if I'm not living the same life as everybody else, what, who am I? So that's kind of my answer on it. I don't know if that helps, but it can be a massive part of the journey, and a difficult one, the loneliness, but really working with it and dropping those beliefs. Like I said, like when I accepted that I was going to be alone in my apartment working through this, I fought it for so long, and kept on trying to live a normal life and whatnot, and kept on crashing, and kept on suffering and struggling. And eventually I was like, I was getting into meditation, and it would help my symptoms, and I would still resist it because it meant facing what needed to be here and sitting with uncomfortable stuff. And eventually, probably just through the way things unfolded for me, I was realizing that, this was a massive opportunity that I had here. People would go on these meditation retreats where they would sit in silence and meditate for days, isolating themselves from the outside world. But it would be okay because of the beliefs about it. Like this is not a problem. So kind of shifting my perspective on it of I should be living this kind of life, but I'm not, to like, okay, I'm going to be alone in my apartment. Can I really use this time to explore my mind and what's causing me to suffer? And that's kind of when the loneliness shifted, and it wasn't really a problem anymore because I felt the loneliness. I was okay with the loneliness, and I wasn't really fighting the process anymore. So that was my experience with it. Mercy Chamanuka, depersonalization. Yeah, so with depersonalization, I mean, I'm really not an expert on this. I'll just kind of share what I understand, and I really do recommend grounding practices and getting more, because it's really being super caught up in the thought world and the mind and the head. So like I said, body-based practices like massage, the lymphatic drainage massages worked really well for me. Yoga nidras I highly recommend. It's like a body scanning technique, but it's very relaxing, and they also call it non-sleep deep rest. So it's like a deep rest practice, but you're still awake. Kind of things to get into the body more, because all of that is intensely in the head. But also to realize, and as I said, I'm not an expert on this, so I really don't want to give anybody false information. I did therapy while I was going through this, and I recommend it as well. It can help to get in deeper into the emotion work if you've got a good therapist. But yeah, really getting into the body. And another thing with the depersonalization is, if I look at things from my perspective of where I am now, after going really deep with meditation and inquiry and investigating the identity structures and the awakening process, and this can all sound very kind of out there to people who haven't explored it, and that's completely fine. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. But the kind of the whole journey was realizing that my identity, like it could feel like depersonalization a lot of the time, because I was seeing that I wasn't my identity that I thought I was, because it was all kind of crumbling. I don't know if that makes sense, but like eventually I realized with the deeper aspects of meditation and self-inquiry that the personal identity is kind of it's a thought, and when that can start crumbling, it can be very disorientating. But that's so I recommend reading Angelo DeLulo's book Awake if anybody wants to explore that. He's really good about talking about this kind of stuff. I mean, he's very realized. But yeah, depersonalization, as I said, I can't, I'm not an expert on the topic, but my personal recommendation would be the more body-based work, because that's kind of all happening up in the head, and the emotion work as well. You know, try to get more into the body. Yeah. Erin says lymphatic drainage massage is so very satisfying and work wonders. Yeah, it was very very powerful practice for me, that the drainage massage. Surprisingly, because when I first came across it, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this, and it is incredibly, like it really brought me into the present and out of my head, like really, because what it feels like is like my energy was moving from up in my head. And again, I wasn't talking about my energy being in my head as opposed to my body back then, but that's kind of what I could see what was happening now. And I would go for a short walk afterwards, and I would just be so present, as opposed to thinking about symptoms and reacting and all of that. So yeah, it's really great. Claudia, hi Claudia. It sounds so simple to allow and not resist emotions and sensations, but truly one of the hardest things to do consistently for me, but it's making huge differences. Absolutely, Claudia. I'm glad to hear it's making a difference for you, but I completely agree. And it's so easy to hear, as you say, it sounds so simple. It's so easy to hear me talk about it or somebody talk about it. But that's just on the intellectual level, right? It's one thing to understand, okay, this is how to deal with the symptoms when they come. Like, okay, I understand that intellectually. It's like understanding that, you know, okay, this is how, if I go to the gym and I lift the weights in a certain way, it's going to build muscle, or, you know, understanding a training program and how it works and what it does for you, and knowing that, okay, if I train, I will get fitter. That's the intellectual understanding, right? So you could listen to somebody talk, you could read a book about it. Okay, it's simple. It's so simple to get fit, to work out. You know, it's simple, the process. but it's a completely different thing to actually do the practical aspects of it, and that's in the end all that really matters, is actually doing the work. And that's why I made a video about it the other day, like 2 days ago. That was the video I released, or maybe a couple more days ago. The video I made when I got back from retreat, because it was very prominent topic on my retreat as well, because it's like you can understand meditation, you can get things on an intellectual level, but whether you actually walk the path, that's where you're actually going to get the benefits, right? So it applies exactly to what you're saying there. Like, okay, I must allow the symptoms, I must allow the emotions, and then when they come, and that's why I really recommend like a consistent practice of either meditation or some body work, or actively setting aside like 30 minutes, an hour a day to do the work, because it's one thing to do it when it comes up, which is when it's the most needed, but it's like training for a race or something. If we do the work consistently, it's going to be so much easier to do it when we really need it. So that's why I recommend meditation and all of that. And it's really helpful to have practical things to do, because it's one thing to talk about it, but how do I actually put it into practice, you know? So that's why I recommend the meditation practices, and you know, basic practices like body scanning or focusing on the breath and then feeling into the body. That's where the money's at, right? Because that's when we come into contact with what we don't want to feel. It's like, can I take half an hour and just feel whatever comes up? That's where you're going to recover, not watching the videos. It's an important step, right, to come across what works. So that's why I share what worked for me. But then the one who actually is going to make you recover is yourself. So I can give you the tools. And it can be helpful to have someone who's walked the path, I suppose, to you know, who can share what worked, what didn't work, and also just to know that it's okay to do that kind of stuff, and it works. But when you figure it out yourself, that's when it actually matters. And like you say, it's making a huge difference. That's when somebody's going to actually be committed to doing the work, because you've seen it for yourself that it actually works. Yeah, yes, thank you. I've been resisting my feelings, especially the hard so-called negative ones. So feeling the feeling is a game changer for sure. A tough one though, to stop fighting what is and isn't. Absolutely, Mia. Yeah, it's really the fact that we have been conditioned, just all of us through growing up, that we shouldn't feel certain feelings, right? As you say, the so-called negative ones. But it's just another aspect of the human experience. And we suffer because we set up these lives where we try to only feel the so-called positive ones and not feel the so-called negative ones, but it's all a part of it. And then, you know, if we can, and that's kind of what the end of suffering is non-resistance, right? If we can, but it's as I was just saying, it requires a lot of work to get there, right? Something can click intellectually. Oh, okay, don't resist anything. Cool. Now we've got the understanding. Now let's go back and see everything that we're resisting and feel into it. So Yeah, it's like really the core of all of our suffering on different levels is, trying to cling to the so-called positive experiences, which will pass, right? So if something we're feeling good, we suffer then when it's over, and we want things to go back to how they were. And then when the negative experiences are here, we don't want to feel them. But as you say, it's such a game changer to actually feel the feeling and to know that it's okay to feel what's here, and it really, once we get better at doing this, so we spend more time feeling into it and taking more time to work with what's here and practicing the accepting and the allowing, it's a game changer because experiences are more intense, but they don't hang around as long because we're not fighting it, right? If we're feeling anger or loneliness or whatever, and we're really trying to push away this experience, we're really resisting it hard, it's going to keep coming up. It's going to be driving our behavior throughout the day. It's going to be driving the way we interact with people. Once we really start to feel these emotions, they kind of just pass through. They just want to be felt, and then it's on to the next. And just a willingness to allow it to be there as long as it needs to. But it does not just hang around for days and days as it does when we're terribly afraid of the feelings. And another thing I'll just share, which is a reason to be grateful when we're realizing we're feeling intense emotion, is if we're feeling intense emotion but we don't even know it, we're kind of going to be acting unconsciously on that emotion. So if we're really resisting our anger, but we don't even know we're resisting anger, we're going to kind of act out from that place, and we're going to kind of affect the people around us by repressing this. This emotional repression leads to people acting out violently and, hurting emotionally or however the people around them, because we don't even realize that this emotion is driving our behavior. So if an intense emotion comes up, like extremely intense, we can just be grateful that, oh, I'm so glad that I can actually see that this emotion is here, that it's not unconsciously driving my behavior, or it's not, it's not behind me where I'm not aware of it. It's in front of me where I can just see it as an emotion, and I don't have to fight it. And I suppose Erin says, I remember that very lonely feeling early on because I was in a relationship with someone who was not supportive at all, and I kept thinking that I would get better if I had help from him, help from doctors, etc. But I needed to stop and help myself. I completely agree with Kyle that learning to not resist whatever you're feeling is essential to recovery. Not resisting takes a lot of practice, and then one day everything just seems to fall in place. Beautiful, Erin. Spot on. That's exactly everything I've just been saying. And yeah, realizing, so yeah, I completely agree with that. And as you say, realizing that you got to help yourself, it kind of, this whole thing goes through stages, I suppose, and the early stages for me, and I think it is for most people, is kind of looking for somebody that's going to fix us, because that's kind of how we've grown up, that if you have a medical issue or whatever, you go to the doctor and they sort it out. But also, like realizing that we can, as you say, you can help yourself. It's so easy. Like I was in this place for a long time of, if only this was different, if only this person was different, if only my situation was different. But none of that helped me, right? That made things worse. I could endlessly think of if only I had a really good doctor, If only my parents were able to fix this, if only whatever. But none of that helped. I had to go through that to realize it myself. But realizing that really all the change needs to happen within. That's kind of what I'm always talking about. Is it's all the inner work, and it's like that on a much bigger scale. It's not just with chronic illness recovery. It's if I'm talking more about the deeper meditation journey or whatever. Everything that feels like a problem, this person shouldn't be doing that. It's really, if we look deep inside ourselves, it's all the problems are in our own mind. It's all some reaction to what's happening. There's what's happening, and it's then our reaction to what's happening that's the problem. If we can come to a place of this is what's happening right now, and just be in that place, there's no problem. But it takes a long time to get there, or a lot of deep honesty with ourselves, willingness to see what's there that I don't want to see. So that's the kind of deeper work after awakening. If I'm talking about the awakening journey, it becomes work on like reactivity and realizing that, why is this a problem? Why is this triggering me? We get to a place where we realize that it's always about oneself. If somebody's doing something that's triggering me, it's because it's bringing up something in me that I don't want to feel. And then a while back, a couple of years ago, I would have kind of responded in what this person is doing is wrong and they need to change. And the reason that things are not okay in this moment is because this person isn't the way I want them to be, or this situation isn't the way I want it to be, or the doctors aren't the way I want them to be. But we can come to a place where we realize that it's always an inside job of the mind, right? It's what that person is doing is triggering something in me which I don't want to feel, so they mustn't do that. But doing this reactivity work is incredibly powerful because it's insane how things change. How things that used to be so triggering, once we're willing to feel what it brings up in us. So a great practice that anybody can do if you want to do this work is if you're in a situation where somebody triggers something or whatever, you're watching a video, whatever, just it triggers a strong reaction. It's like, can you stay in the, I watched, there's a guy that Angelo interviewed, his name's Kevin Shanalik. He talks about staying in the gap, and that's how to do a lot of reactivity work is there's what happens and then the reaction. Can you stay in that gap and just feel there? And this can kind of be deeper work, maybe once we've done a bit of meditation and we're kind of more aware of our own reactions, and maybe after some kind of awakening in the sense of realizing that you're not your thoughts, you're not your reactions, then we can kind of work in this gap of I don't have to actually react, right? This person said something. What is this feeling that makes me want to react? And can I just stay there in the gap? And I've been practicing this, and it's incredible. Whereas things that used to be so triggering, maybe around family, it's often family that can get on our nerves the most. It's like, oh my gosh, that was all just something I didn't want to feel. It's so much easier if they're saying something, and then I feel like I'm getting triggered. Oh, okay, look at that. Like, that's just something there. And then it really is not such a problem anymore. And this kind of really applies to symptoms as well, and chronic illness as well, is can I feel a symptom without reacting? Can I feel the symptom, and then I notice the reaction of, okay, there's whatever, tension in my chest, or a headache, or pain somewhere. There's the symptom. Can I explore that? And then there's reaction. Oh, this is so uncomfortable. Oh, if only this would go away. Not again. You know, how long is this going to stay? Whatever the mind is saying. Can you kind of go into the gap where you just feel the symptom without reacting? And you're going to react. It's kind of, it's the same as in my videos where I talk about learning to meditate and saying, keep your attention on a certain thing, like your sensations of the breath at the nose, and notice when the mind wanders, and when you become aware of the mind wandering, you bring it back to that. It's kind of the same practice. It's okay if you react, right? Getting upset that you reacted, like, oh no, I'm doing this wrong. Like, I'm supposed to be feeling sensations, and then I see all my reactions, and then we're reacting to the reactions, right? Then it's the next level. Like, just it's okay if you notice that you're reacting a lot. Like, that's fine. But yeah, that's why I'm talking about this, because it's the same thing with recovery. It's the more we do this work, and again, this really comes from doing the work, putting aside time to meditate, to feel into the body, different practices, and I've got a video talking about the practices that I recommend, but again, whatever really resonates with someone. Doing that work then allows us that space to work in when the symptoms are there. But again, we can do it like I'm saying now. So you set aside some time, you go into the body, and can I just feel the sensation without reacting, and just noticing the reaction, right? And being okay with, okay, I'm reacting. Oh, look, I'm reacting so much. Interesting. But again, what really helps us is meditation, right? Like, I was on a 10-day meditation retreat recently, and my awareness of my reaction to bodily sensations just deepened throughout the retreat, because that's kind of it's the practice that we were practicing on the retreat. It was body scanning. It's the practice, like this retreat was so applicable to the recovery journey and all suffering, really, because it was about feeling through the bodily sensations without reacting, and realizing that it's all the reaction to the bodily sensations that drives suffering, our misery, our dissatisfaction with whatever, like on a broad scale, not just with a chronic illness. What is happening 24/7 is things are happening, and it triggers a reaction in the body. So, something good happens, and that triggers pleasant sensations in the body. Something that we label as bad happens, and that triggers uncomfortable sensations in the body. And if we can retrain our minds to be like equanimous, to have equanimity of not clinging to the pleasant sensations and not resisting the uncomfortable sensations, just realizing that all the sensations are coming and going, right? The pleasant sensations don't last forever, they pass, and the uncomfortable sensations don't last forever, they pass. So if I can just feel the sensations that are there, and if it's really uncomfortable, to just feel it and not react, and just realize that it's not going to be there forever. Why react so strongly to something that will pass? And again, it's going to stay there longer if I'm really fighting it. So that's kind of like the Vipassana body scanning meditation practice, and it's so relevant. If one could just apply that practice and learn that practice of feeling into the sensations of the body and accepting it, that's really going to play a massive role in recovery, because then it doesn't trigger the whole reaction from the mind of this symptom is bad, this. What I will add to it, which is what I talk about a lot as well, is the nurturing and the welcoming and the loving kindness aspects as well, because trying to practice pure non-reaction can get, if we're doing it, it's easy to do it from the wrong place, right? Okay, I mustn't react to this, and then getting upset with ourselves for not reacting, or for reacting, right? So that's where the compassionate side of it is so helpful, to be like, it's okay, this is difficult, there's a sensation that I don't want to feel, and that's fine. I don't need to get rid of that even. The part of me that doesn't want to feel what's here, it's okay. It's okay. There's a part of me that doesn't want to feel this. When you're aware of that, you're no longer identified with that, right? If I can see that there's a part of me that doesn't want to feel this, and that's okay, I allow that to be here. What does that feel like? It will often feel like a, no, this shouldn't be here, or no, I don't want this. Can I feel that? Then I'm no longer really identifying as, no, this shouldn't be here. I'm kind of seeing that as something arising on its own. So, yeah, that's really the key here. It's just notice what's here. But yeah, meditation helps a lot with this. It did for me, when I really committed to meditating a lot. I was able to do this work because I was now aware of my thoughts and my reactions, as opposed to being fully identified as them. Mia says, your videos and wisdom have helped me a lot. I'm so grateful for you and you sharing as you do. I'm so glad to hear that, Mia. I'm really glad it's helped, and I really enjoy sharing it. So I will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Thank you for asking your question earlier. That was a great question. I'm sure it helps a lot of people as well. Hey, Stuart, welcome. What do you think is the ideal daily meditation practice routine? So that's really going to vary from person to person. So I will give an answer from my perspective, but I first just want to say everybody is kind of different in this sense, in that some people are already more present. Before this, they were already more in the body. They already had a more intuitive side to them. From my own perspective, I was very analytical. I was very mind identified. I was very much in the intellect, not a feeling person, all just thoughtful thoughts, and it was very uncomfortable. And for me, I found lots of meditation practice to be very helpful, because it really, it was necessary for me to kind of get out of that thoughts identification world. It was so difficult to not overanalyze everything, because that's just how I did. So yeah, for that kind of person, I really do recommend, I'll talk a bit about what I would think is an ideal practice. I do recommend a lot of meditation. It's only going to help. I'm sure when I say that, meditation can bring up scary and difficult stuff. I've read countless times online people saying, meditation ruined my life, or what, because of this, or just, meditation is making things worse, because now I feel more angry, I feel more this, I feel more that, because it's bringing stuff up, right? It's so yeah, it can feel difficult, but it's only really helping, and it can it can be scary for the separate ego identification part of ourselves. But anyways, so yeah, for people that are like kind of more intuitive and you know, for some people meditation just isn't that important. But I would say for most people it's going to be really beneficial, and specifically for those of us who are really up in the head, intellectual, thinking. That type of person, I would recommend a lot. Like start with what's comfortable for you, but don't be afraid to push your boundaries, right? So here, let me say what I would say is good practice, a good daily practice. I would say so this is what worked for me, right? Somebody might just figure out what works for them, and that's absolutely fine. What really worked for me in the periods where I started making a lot of progress was when I committed to doing 2 long meditation sessions a day. So, and the periods that worked the best for me was right after waking up. I'd wake up, I'd have a cold shower, because often if I'd wake up and just go meditate, I would feel really sleepy, and you know, like kind of doze off in my meditation. So one thing that helped would have a cold shower, and I was doing cold exposure because it helped a lot with feeling the uncomfortable sensations and what. I know for some people maybe cold exposure is too stimulating, or you know, if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Like do what works for you. Maybe a warm shower, maybe you're not showering, maybe some cold water on your face or whatever. But just sharing what worked for me, that was great. Wake up, cold shower. Now I'm kind of awake, and then I would do like I started with you know, until I fully committed, I was practicing like a 20-minute meditation and another 20-minute meditation, and then you know, kind of on and off with that, and eventually I started meditating like an hour. I started with like half an hour and 40 minutes and 45 minutes and whatnot. But I think I built it up to like 50 minutes to an hour in the morning, and the same in the evening, and then a couple throughout the day. So, but then a couple I would do like guided meditation. So I was using the Waking Up app, and then I would do the more. So those were kind of focused meditations. The longer one, I would do like 45 to an hour of focusing on the sensations of the breath at the nose. And I was kind of using the practices I learned from this book called The Mind Illuminated, which is really it's a very practical guide to meditation, and it's very technical and like progress-based, and got a lot of maps and techniques and stuff, which is really helpful, and it was what helped me to actually start meditating like an hour a day. Or 2 hours a day. But then I found Angelo's work really helpful in conjunction with it, because it's very easy to get but I don't think it's a bad thing for a while to really focus on progressing in meditation, and then reading Angelo's stuff and some of the more non-dual teachings. Again, you can go off on the deep end on that side as well. There's a lot of teachers teaching non-dual, there's no self, there's no one to practice, there's nothing to do. That's kind of harmful as well, because when you're really struggling, that's not going to help you. There's nothing to do. It can be a powerful message. That's kind of not, I'm going off topic here. But balancing that, so I would like The Mind Illuminated is a great book to learn to meditate, but then also realizing maybe I like Angelo's work as well. I like Angelo's work the most. It's just the most, he's not fixated on any side. It's just, it's so clean. It's just really pure teaching. There's no agenda there. But yeah, an hour a day, and then some guided meditations throughout the day. So I was using the Waking Up app, and there's a lot of the more kind of, there was like some compassion-based meditations, and there's a guy on the app, his name's Henry Shukman. He had this course called anybody uses the Waking Up app, what's it called? Something about love, or and he had some really wonderful, just guided meditations that were powerful, but so much coming from a place of kindness and acceptance and permission. If there's, feel what's in the body, just accept this moment as it is. And so those kind of meditations, doing like a couple, 3 or 4 10-minute guided meditations throughout the day when I kind of felt that I needed to take a break and do that. So that's what worked for me, was like, and why I really like doing the morning and the evening meditation is, often we can wake up and a lot of people say the symptoms are the worst in the morning, and I experienced that as well. And then doing a meditation can really help then, a long one. And then before bed, I started to notice that I would wake up feeling so much better if I did an hour meditation before bed, and then I would often do some of the compassion work before bed as well. So doing like a long meditation, then afterwards doing like 5-10 minutes of just feeling love for whatever's here, feeling into sensations of the chest, and kind of practicing these compassion-based practices of evoking feelings of love, and imagining something that makes you feel love, and then just kind of sitting in those emotions and saying, I accept you to whatever's here, I love you, I welcome you. I would sleep so much better. I would wake up the next morning, I would be feeling, some days it would be like, still you wake up and there's symptoms, and that's okay. But meditating a bit in the morning and after waking up and before going to bed helped me a lot. And then a couple throughout the day. And if you can, but like now after my retreat, because I was like nowadays it's kind of more variable for me. Like if I'm busy, maybe I don't have fixed meditation, I'll just meditate when I feel like it. But I do see a lot of value to having a fixed meditation. I kind of experimented for a while without it, and a lot of contraction and resistance builds up again, and distraction. So then I went on this retreat and we were meditating 10 hours a day. So when I came back, I now do like a 2-hour meditation in the morning. For the meantime, maybe that changes. But what's really helpful as well is I use the app Insight Timer now just as a timer, because I do most of my meditation not guided. So I'll set a timer for like 50 minutes, and then the bell goes, and I know it's been 50 minutes, and then I'll just sit there. And I know that if I'm not reacting to anything, I can just keep on sitting there. Because I've done this before, where I just meditate without a timer, and if I've got nothing else to get to, or something going on, if you've got something to do, that's fine. A lot of people are time constrained or whatever. I wasn't. I was like, I can just keep sitting here, because what is going to make me stop and say, okay, I can't do this any longer, it's been so long? It's a reaction to a thought, right? It's a thought saying like, oh, it's been so long, maybe I should get up. Okay, that's a thought. I can keep sitting here. When is something going to happen that forces me to get up? And then the other day I just sat and meditated for 2 hours, because I could just keep sitting there. So that's a cool way to extend your meditation time, if you want to, is to set a timer and then just kind of meditate past that timer because also often when we're meditating to a timer, we can become, it's kind of fine, because you can use that to just notice the distraction itself. But I'll notice in myself, oh, surely it's been this long by now. When's the timer going to go off? Oh, okay, that's a thought. Let me go back to the breath. But again, once the timer's gone, it's like, okay, you're not expecting something to go off anymore. So that can be something cool to try. I find it, I enjoy it, is meditating with the timer and then just carrying on meditating afterwards. But yeah, don't be, it's going to vary from person to person what's the ideal practice. But I do find consistent daily practice can be highly really powerful. I would recommend it, definitely. Specifically, having had a very consistent practice that helped me to recover 2 hours a day, and I was really committed to that, and then kind of life opened up again, and I moved back to stay with my parents for a while from living on my own, and it was just such a busy household and so much going on, and it was so easy to not meditate as much, and I kind of just let myself. I wasn't fixed, and it was an important experience as well. As I didn't want to become purely afraid of what happens if I don't meditate. You know, what's going to happen. So I kind of explored that, and life's definitely better when I'm meditating 2 hours a day. But it brought up, you know, stuff in me that I needed to work through. Like, oh, look at all these distractions. Like look how much I want to distract myself. I don't want to feel this. But I definitely recommend meditating. Mercy. What do you do by not resisting? Thank you for your videos. They give me hope. I'm glad to hear that, Mercy. So I made a video on this the other day, so yeah, if you want a good answer on that, I recommend checking out, I think it was like 4 or 5 videos back, called, I'm not sure what it was called, something about resistance. I know the thumbnail is working with resistance or something like that, but I'll talk about it here quickly. So it's kind of what I'm referring to all the time, and what I mean is realizing that what is here is already here. So if there's symptoms in the body, if there's scary thoughts, if there's whatever we don't want to be here, it's already here, right? That symptom is here in this moment. That sensation is here. That thought is here. The only reason that that's a problem is because I'm resisting it. It's because there's another thought that we are identified as. So we're not seeing this thought. We are seeing from this thought that this shouldn't be here. So that's resistance. So I'm feeling a sensation in the body, and then I am feeling from the place of that shouldn't be here. This needs to go away. I don't like this. I can feel like no. That's resistance. So that's what's causing the problem, right? If I can just notice what's here and just it's already here, right? So then I can resist it, or I can just accept it and welcome it. So that's one thing to understand that, right? And it can be really helpful to understand that. Once you understand that, you can realize that, okay, when it feels like there's something that shouldn't be here, I'm resisting, and resistance is just causing the suffering, right? It's there's what's here, there's a symptom, there's a sensation, and it's only a problem because I'm resisting it. Then you can start to work with it, right? You can start to, what is the sensation just like on its own, with no thought about whether it's good or bad, or it's comfortable or uncomfortable, or I like it or I don't like it, or it shouldn't be here or it should be here. That's not what the sensation is saying in this pure experience, right? If I'm, if you struggle to feel the pure experience of a sensation, that's kind of natural as well. Like often we're so much in the thoughts that doesn't even make sense. But if you feel your hand on the table, there's just the experience. So I can say, okay, I feel my hand on the table. The actual sensations aren't saying that, right? There's just sensation, and then there's thoughts about this is my hand on the table's cold, or you feeling your feet on the floor, or a pain in your leg. All of the thoughts about it are not actually in the sensation. It's a reaction to the sensation. So that's kind of understanding it. And then the practice I recommend is what I would do is it's really helpful to start with like a basic meditation or mindfulness practice, because that will make you more aware of the resistance itself. It will kind of give you the space to see your reaction to the sensations. So there's symptoms, and then there's the resistance to the symptoms. And if you practice meditation, and I've got a video on that, that kind of helps you to then do the work of working with resistance. Then to do the work of working with resistance is really about, can I feel into the body and just let whatever wants to be here, without reacting to it, without fighting it, without just exploring what's here. So if there's a lot of symptoms, that's fine. And if there's resistance, that's fine too. That was like such a important part of my journey, was realizing that it's okay if there's fear of the symptoms. That's just the next thing that's here. It's fear. There's no thing that's not allowed to be here. Because whatever is here is what you're welcoming. So if there's resistance, then you welcome resistance. If there's fear, then you welcome fear. If there's if there's scary thoughts, then you welcome scary thoughts. And again, this can take a long time and a lot of practice to get, but once it finally experientially is seen, it's quite freeing. It's incredibly freeing in realizing that you don't have to manage your experience anymore. You don't have to work so hard to make sure that you feel this and you don't feel that. Whatever comes up is okay. All the scary stuff that you were always reacting to when it came up, it can now come up. It can now come up, and it's not a problem. It's welcome. I distinctly remember that shift for me, and it was, I just kind of started laughing a bit, because it was like, anything is okay to be felt. Like, I was reading, I either watched one of Angelo DeLullo's videos, or was reading a chapter in his book, and he was kind of talking about this, and it suddenly, because I went and practiced it, I went and lay down and just felt whatever wanted to be here. And whatever, if I'm lying and this is feeling scary and this is feeling uncomfortable and whatever, that's okay. So I also really recommend, I forgot to mention this in my recent meditation video. I listed a whole bunch of resources there. Angelo's got a free meditation app called Simply Always Awake. I think that's the name of the app as well. So he's got his YouTube channel called Simply Always Awake, but he's got an app with guided meditations that are so good. They're more in the style of natural, so they're not like focused meditations, like focusing on the breath at the nose and increasing concentration. They're much deeper. They're the natural kind of meditation that Angelo teaches, of just exploring what's here right now. If I don't do anything, if the mind doesn't try to make things a certain way, they're really, really great. So yeah, I forgot to mention that app. It's free. It's a very simple app. It's literally just got like 60 recordings on it. It's not very fancy or anything, but it's such good meditations. Also the kind of deeper stuff. So if you've never meditated much before and you don't know much about awakening or the deeper stuff, that's kind of a lot of what it is like really pointing to the unfiltered consciousness and pure experience and that kind of stuff, which can sound kind of you kind of might not get what he's pointing to, but check it out, But that's why I recommend like a basic mindfulness practice for a while to start. Like that's really so powerful on its own if you've never meditated before. And yeah, as I mentioned a couple of good resources on my last video. Yeah, so Erin says, your video, the practice that helped me the most, I believe it was the fourth video you ever made, was a great explanation of resistance as well. Yeah, thanks, Erin. Yeah, that's true. So there's another video about resistance. I deactivated my social media a while back to focus on my health, but seriously considered reactivating temporarily in order to share your channel in a long COVID support group. More people should hear your recovery journey and what's worked for you guys. Thanks, Erin. Yeah, I kind of reactivated my social media temporarily for a while as well. But it really helped to deactivate it and focus on my health. That was a really great thing. But yeah, thanks for wanting to share the channel. If anybody wants to do that kind of thing, I think that's great, because I've kind of thought about putting some of my videos on all long COVID groups and forums that I was on, but yeah, I don't really want to like self-promote. I know a lot of those groups kind of have strong rules against people self-promoting their own stuff, so it kind of doesn't feel. Yeah, it's like on one hand, the whole reason I'm making these videos is I want to help the people who are stuck on the long COVID groups and the chronic fatigue syndrome forums and stuff. But often those people, it really depends on the. It depends on the environment. There's some forums where people are very against hearing stuff about recovery, like the chronic fatigue syndrome Reddit subreddit. I haven't been on there in ages, but I remember when I was really struggling. If anybody recovered, there would often like be so much backlash. People saying, it's a load of nonsense, don't listen to what this person's saying and stuff. So some of those groups are quite intense. But yeah, I would love to share it, but yeah, whatever. I'm just kind of posting on YouTube for now. But if anybody wants to share the videos, go for it. Cool. It looks like we've gotten through all the questions there. If anybody has any few last-minute questions, you're welcome to pop them in. We can finish off with some meditating. I think that would be great. So I'll give a few minutes to see if anybody wants to say any last questions. Anything anybody wants to ask is fine, and then we'll do some meditating. Because as we were talking about earlier, is we can talk and talk and talk and ask questions and answer questions, but what's actually going to make the difference is doing the work. So that's why I think I like ending these off with a meditation. Yeah, Erin, I agree. Like can be helpful, like what you say. Like I remember when I was early on, when I had no clue what the hell was going on with me and all these symptoms, I was on one of the long COVID subreddits, and I made a long post about how shitty my situation was and all the symptoms I was going through, and I received a lot of support there, like a lot of people, posting stuff that was so helpful. But in the end, that was helpful once, but it really, I had to kind of just give up on keeping track of my symptoms and all of that. Like, eventually I had to come to the realization myself that that wasn't helping, and that's kind of what was keeping me stuck for so long, was telling everybody how, dumping my symptoms on everybody and reinforcing that. So it's a double-edged sword. I think it's a part of the process. So yeah, I agree that it can be helpful, and that kind of support. But then the problem is also, like, people who are new to this, like, they just started experiencing this, and then they come on and they just read all these people dumping, they're venting from 2 years of struggling. I remember for me, like, I was like 6 months, 7 months in, and then just reading all these posts of people saying 2 years, never recovered, my life is hell, this and this and this. And then it drives all these beliefs, right? As somebody asked me in one of my videos the other day, why am I still making videos if I'm recovered after 4 months? Don't I want to move on with my life? Which is a fair question. Maybe some people do. But for me, the main thing is there's just so much negative information out there about recovery, and not that much stuff about people who have recovered. So I really want to share everything that worked for me. So Stuart says, I find the forums very triggering. I can totally understand that, Stuart. I think a lot of us do. They can be very triggering. I mean, that was a part of recovery for me as well, was to realize that I eventually just stopped going on the forums altogether, because I would always kind of go on to check if there was any recovery stories that that could help me, but it would always just turn into doom scrolling, like just scrolling. So then just kind of making the decision to realize that wasn't helping me, and not going on the forums anymore. Aaron says, I think it depends on what stage of recovery you're in regards to the forums. Helpful early on, but triggering now. Yeah, I agree. But also early on, it can form a lot of beliefs in someone, where you go there early on, and for me, then I got stuck in all those beliefs that people were sharing there. Lots of folks and their thoughts on there. That's the thing, is it's just it's kind of like as you said, it's like a symptom dump, just everybody ranting all of these thoughts, but not realizing that they're just thoughts. But it's like completely, it's so difficult, right? It's like not to judge those people, but if you really want to recover, you'll eventually be honest with yourself that that's not the way. Honestly didn't get, Mia says, honestly didn't get what doing the work actually meant until I found you approximately a month ago. That's the real key, is doing the work. And for so long, I was always just looking for a way out, researching, just reading all I could about long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome, and supplements and this and diet and that. But until I actually started facing what I needed to face and doing the work, I just kept on getting worse. And the reason I kept on getting worse was because I was resisting without even realizing it, but spending hours online looking for a supplement that was going to take away my symptoms was, at the time I didn't know this, but Um, it was me being unwilling to face what was here. Like, I could sit for an hour and feel what was here, but that terrified me. But that's eventually where I had to go. So yeah, I'm glad you found it helpful. Erin asks, are you going to do a guided meditation or silent? I personally enjoy guided ones. Yeah, let's do a guided one. I haven't done one for a while, and I had lots of silent meditation recently, so let's do a guided one. All right, I think we're done with all the questions and talking, so everybody that wants to join for meditation, let's just start by maybe taking a few deep breaths, just letting go of everything that we've brought into this moment. So just kind of relaxing the body, closing the eyes if that feels comfortable to you. And then we can just start by noticing the breath. Maybe starting with one deep breath just to settle. But the key is we're really not trying to control the breath. We're just noticing it as it is. If it's short, it's short. If it's deep, it's deep. If it's long and slow, that's just how it is. We're not here to change the breath. There's no right or wrong. Just kind of drop into it. You can notice wherever it feels most prominent. Maybe the rising and falling of the belly. Just notice how it's happening on its own. You don't need to do anything to make it happen. It's just as it is. Maybe you feel it in the chest, rising and falling. Or at the nose. Subtle sensations of breath coming in and out of the nostrils. Wherever it feels most prominent to you. Just rest your attention there for a bit. And just stay with the experience just as it is. Can you just stay with the raw experience of breathing? If thoughts come, that's fine. You don't need to fight them. Just let them be there. Just notice that as a thought. Let it go. You don't need to do anything to it. Thought says, I wonder how long I'm going to do this for, or thinking about the past or the future. Just notice that that's a thought. And then rest with the sensation of breathing again. And see if you can get even closer to the sensations. Can you feel them from the perspective of the sensation itself? What does that mean for you? If you're noticing the breath at the nose, can you really feel the raw experience of sensation? You're not apart from that sensation, observing it. It can feel like that. But and if it does feel like that, that's not a problem at all. But just see if you can get closer. See what it feels like from inside the sensation itself. Just explore that for a bit. And again, if it doesn't make any sense, just notice that that's a thought as well. I don't understand. How do I go inside the sensation? Oh, that's a thought. Okay, that's fine. Now let's go back to the sensation itself and explore it. If the mind wanders, that's not a problem. Just notice notice the current thought. And thoughts are not a problem. We can often feel like we're pushing thoughts away. But it can be great practice to stop and explore the experience of thought itself. So maybe we're resting on the sensations of breathing. That's fine. And then the thought comes, and eventually we realize it's a thought. Just stop and explore that thought itself. What is thought made out of? And try to just explore it directly. If it leads to the next thought, I don't know what thought is made of. How do I do that? Notice that that is also a thought. And thoughts really can be our entry point. Stop with that thought right there. What is it made of? Can you feel the texture of it? And again, notice if it leads to the next thought. What is the texture of it? That's the next thought. Can you feel it? So we really don't have to fight thoughts. We don't have to get rid of thoughts. We can really just look at them closer and closer. What do they feel like? What are they made of? Where are they located? And then you can go back to the sensations of breathing if you want to. And if you notice that there's tension anywhere in the body, that's fine. Just see if you can relax that area a bit. Just release. Don't need to fight it. But often we're holding tension somewhere and we don't even realize it. So just actively relaxing the body at any place where it feels like there's contraction or tension. Often in the chest, or the head, or the neck, or the shoulders. Just gently feel into these areas and relax them. Scan through the face, noting the sensation of the lips, the cheeks, the nose, the top of the head, the back of the head, sides of the head, the neck, shoulders, just feeling the sensations and relaxing. The arms, don't need to do anything, just feel what's there. The hands, the upper back, the lower back, chest, stomach, thighs, the glutes, the backs of the legs, the knees and shins, calves, and the feet. Just scanning through the sensations of every part of the body. Just releasing tension if we find we're actively holding anywhere. And then you can kind of just rest in the whole sensation of the body. Just rest awareness as a whole on the pure sensation field. Don't need to specifically put your attention anywhere. But if your attention is called anywhere, let it go there. Let it explore that area inside and out. And just explore the pure experience of sensation. What is sensation itself made out of? In direct experience. And just rest there. Not making anything happen. Just resting with exactly what's here. Nothing to do. Just rest your mind. Spend so much time trying to do the right thing. There's nothing to do right now. Just let go of it all. Just feel what's here. Just as it is. And remember that you can stop and do this at any time in your day. Just take a few moments to stop everything and just feel into what's right here. If you don't try to do anything. Just exploring the bodily sensations as they are. And it can often help to start with the breath. And we can always come back to the breath. It's always there throughout the day. No matter what's happening, you can just notice what does the breath feel like. And you never have to force it to be a certain way. Just notice. Don't worry. Don't worry if it's short or long. Just things are confusing. Just come back to that pure experience. Pure experience at any time. You can notice the pure experience of sound. What is sound without any labels? Throughout the day, you can just explore sound a bit. You can explore the visual field. Just explore the direct experience without adding any labels. You can do that at any time. Okay, we'll finish that one there. All right, thanks everyone for joining. That's the end of the meditation. If anybody has any last questions they want to ask before I pop off, you're welcome to. You're welcome, Aaron. Thank you for joining. It's always great to have you here. The street I stay on here is quite noisy, so you might have heard a little bit of background noise. During the meditation. You're welcome, Mia. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your great questions. It's lovely hanging out with you guys. Thanks, Stuart. Glad you could join. Great to have you. Alrighty. Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. The background noise gives you the opportunity to practice just letting sounds be there. I mean, I love just exploring sound now. It's great to meditate on it. You just sit and what is sound like? What is the experience of sound like if you don't add anything to it? What is just pure sound? And you can just keep exploring that. It's all the sense fields. Angelo talks about this a lot. We can just explore the sense fields. But sound is, the visual field is so easy to conceptualize, to make this into an object and that into an object and that into an object without even realizing it. But the sound field, the more we just explore sound, and keep dropping the labels, can really take us deep. So it's wonderful. But it's easy early on to react to sound. Oh no, sound is ruining my meditation. But no, it's really can be great. All right. I think I'm going to stop it there. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll do another one soon. Always great to hang out with you guys. Best of luck, everybody.